Introducing LT Defense Tactical Gear, your ultimate solution for top-notch protection and performance in the field. Our armor bundles provide unmatched safety and comfort, while our battle belts and holsters ensure quick and easy access to your gear. Stay prepared for any situation with our high-quality medical supplies, designed to keep you ready for action at all times. Looking to enhance your skills? Our firearms training programs will take your proficiency to the next level. Trust LT Defense for all your tactical gear needs and gear up for success on the battlefield.
This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Good morning today. I don't know where this year is going. We are already on the 25th of November and things are just flying through. And I'm like, oh my gosh, an abundance here. Why are we flying through? Because we need it to come to the fruition, to the end, so that everything is beautiful and everything gets back into order and our abundance is well deserved after all the work we have done. And at that, today, we're going to talk about a really deep subject. I have beautiful guest on, Miss Jacqueline Ingersoll. And today, episode number 28 is Death Becomes Her. Death is one of those words that when people talk about it or have to witness it or have to go through it, it's really a hard thing. It's a hard emotion. It's a hard one to swallow. It's a hard pill. And I'm going to go back to man. Has man made it that way? Has our conscious mind of our egos and judgments think that the world's like it's going to come to an end like Chicken Little, the sky is falling, right? Has there so much fear into it that nothing can actually get a precedence of stableness after? Or is it something that happens and all of a sudden we have a guilt for it, or we have a fear of the unknown? We have, there is so many emotions that goes with death in itself, or watching this death occur, that maybe we should start flipping, right? Maybe we should start flipping that belief pattern. Because let's face it, no one's getting out of here alive. Nobody. You're just not. So why don't we face realities and face what is that fear, that sadness, or that emotion, so that, everything then becomes, more fluid, so we just go through life and we see it as a loving, and we see it as a gratefulness, and we see it as a blessing, and we see it as an affirmation and a just as a thank you for allowing, and a thank you says, I did the best I could, right? I did what I needed to come, thank you, Father. So hopefully this show we're going to change that a little bit. We're going to change it so that people can see a little insight if they don't know about death. And then we're going to bring on our interview of the week, Miss Jackie, somewhere around 9:30, 9:45. And she then is going to put everything else in perspective for us. So let's get started. Back to Oxford Dictionary. Bum, bum, bum. Oxford Dictionary, the definition of death. I'm going to read it. There's my sound crew. Yeah. So Oxford Dictionary, death noun is the action or fact of dying or being killed, the end of life of a person or organism. Remember, everything that you see has a live energetic value. Remember that. Trees, plants, roots, weeds, grass, right? There's just live salt rocks from Himalayan, right? Gemstones in the core of the earth. Everything has a lifespan. It's a life expectancy. Our earth, oh my goodness, our earth is one of those big ones. Our earth keeps evolving and plotting and plotting and plotting and plotting, right? When you get to the core, we have so many sediments that make it look like a tree ring, right? So when we get to do the tree ring, you're like, oh, look at all this, look at all this. When you actually look at a tree, you can see viruses and or complete events in a tree. Watch and look at a tree. Really study a tree. Do you see any malformations? Some trees have burls, right? That's a growth, like a cancer grows. Some of these burls will actually kill a tree. Some of these trees have really, really bent limbs, right? Because they must have gone through a windstorm or some other kind of tragedy, but they made it, right? But then there's that tree who quite didn't make it, and then they start dying from the inside. You don't even know until they fall over. Humans act the same way. Humans really act the same way. And in the human body, the insides of our body might be just like tearing down, and we don't even know it until we get to a pain or a discomfort or some abnormal thing that we're feeling, and it doesn't go away. And then you're like, all right, let me go get a diagnostic. Let me see what's going on. And then, as they did to my father, let me just talk to my father, his pain in his back. I went in, they did all the tests, came back around. The doctor just looked at him and said, I'm really sorry to say, but you got dealt a bad hand. You might have about 6 months to live. Pancreatic cancer, silent killer, right? He made more than 6 months, God love his soul. But we were able to be with him. We were able to literally, our family was able to be at home with him. Same as our grandparents, same as, we all believe that we are there to help cross and to make them feel comfortable. So is it sad? Yeah, you could say sad. And I think that if people are sad, it's because they have an emotion or a seed that's within that they fear. And we're gonna get into some of these emotions because it's really important to honor these emotions. It's so important to feel these emotions, and it's so important to understand these emotions on both sides, right? The person, you're gonna say, well, if it dies, how do you know? Because there's near deaths, and I've had one. We're gonna talk about that too. So now that we know what death is by Oxford, there's really no proven way to know what one truly does feel like when it's going to die, unless, of course, you've had a near death that science knows the heart stopped, but then you'll find out that that's not clinical death, right? Even though the heart stops, and then you have some other types of death. So on this one, there are some things that people can experience in hours and moments before death. And we know this because we are aware. I told you, we watched our family. You're watching pets, right? So if anybody has a pet and you're watching that pet cross on natural, not euthanasia, but on natural, we all go through the same process. Care if it's a cat, dog, whatever living organisms, they go through it. It's an unconsciousness. And that's number one. They have this unconsciousness, and people may drift into an unconscious state, and then similar to like a coma or like a dream, and then they wake up later unaware of what that is. Or they may lapse in and out of consciousness. Sometimes waking up and talking and then slipping right back into an unconsciousness, or they'll wake up or they'll be talking and looking at you, and they are somewhere in the past of their life. Like they're somewhere talking about something that happened in their life, whether they're trying to balance it, whether they're trying to mold it, whether they're trying to put it back together, the pieces, right? Judgment Day. A lot of people believe Archangel Gabriel, Judgment Day. Judgment Day, you're going to be asked these questions, right? Is that the unconscious that they're talking in and out of? Who's to say, right? But it is believed to be so. The other thing is breathing. You'll see that breathing in somebody who's getting ready to cross may become very irregular, shallowy, noisy. There might be periods that the breathing just stops. Other symptoms may be glassy, teary-eyed, cold hands, like especially their tips, a very weak pulse. They're hallucinating back into times of their life, from birth all the way up to the existence of wherever they have to be. Or the skin becomes very pale, right? Then they have the awareness when even the unconscious parts of thinking, people may still be able to like hear and be aware of the people around them. They may not be able to verbally communicate that, but touch and hearing are the last senses to go. So out of all your senses, touch them, hold their hand, hug them, love them, talk to them. I love you. Forgive me for anything that I have done wrong. Talk to them, know them. One of the biggest things they always say on a psychological level is honor them, and saying, I'm honoring you. You're allowed to go. I'm honoring you. It's okay. We're going to be fine. Most people, especially if it's a parental or a grandparent, they'll believe, that how could they live without me? I'm the pinnacle. I'm the experience. I'm the wisdom. How could I leave, right? You did your job well, Padawan. It's okay. It's okay. Then you have pain. Some say that the moments before death, you feel you're feeling very pleasant, or you're slightly in a mystical state, and not even painful, not at all. Those minutes beforehand. Each person's death is their own individual death, and dying can be peaceful for many people. And dying on a battlefield, because we are in the military, they already know when you go into war, you already must face death, right? I'm going to say it again. Go into war, you already have to understand and know that death can be an outcome. So we can talk about death like that, and having the complete and utter warriorship of it, and saying, I understand and I'm ready. Then you have other people who are not into the war or not into military, and they live their life very pleasingly, very, into it. And now we have to just help to be there for them, sitting with them, holding their hand and speaking in calm and reassuring way. If your battle buddy is hit, you're going to do the same thing, right? I'm here. Let no man behind, whether they're breathing or not. We pick them up. We bring them. It's that calming. It's that knowing they were not alone, right? A lot of people say, and I say it to a lot of people, you come in alone and you leave alone. And what I'm talking about is our soul. Our soul has to come in, right? But when we're birthed, of course, our mothers, our doctors, our fathers, a lot of people are there at birth. When we die, most people are now there. There's people there. But our soul has to do it themselves. So it's a little bit different. So that's why they always say, be the calm. Be the calm. Be the calm for them. Understand them. Honor them. Know that everything that they're going through, it is on their individual take, right? And we're going to dive into that more. These are just some highlights for everybody. When somebody dies, their bodies, while vital function stops, it can include vital stops of breathing, right? They stop. Their heart stops beating. The brain stops. And then other deaths include, there's no pulse. The reflexes don't respond. Pupils don't constrict. They don't even restrict to bright light. That's why most doctors will, pick up the eye and do a light to see how that pupil is. Skin is pale and waxy. Eyelids might be half open, or their mouth might have fallen open, drooping, right? There is a lot of different characteristics that can go along. These are some of the basics. That way, if none of you out there have ever experienced death or had to go through somebody who is dying, then at that point, all is well. And we are, back into the realm of, okay, this is what she's talking about. This is what's happening in this. After death, the body just goes through several changes, right? It includes the relaxation of muscles. So muscles that are normally constricted, like our Kegels or sphincter muscles, they relax. This is never, this is now becomes, there's rigor mortis that's listed in, right? Then the muscles that are very relaxed, then they start stiffening up. So just the opposite. And they usually peak 7 to 12 hours when that rigor mortis starts to really happen. Decomposition is another part of that process. Autoanalysis is the first stage of decomposition, and that's the enzymes that destroying the cells and the tissues. We always have bacteria in our guts, right? Purefactions of the next stage is when that bacteria starts to break down in our guts and our tissues, and then that produces these gases. And that is where, like, within a half hour, some people can actually start smelling what they call death. And sometimes that decomposition, and sometimes you'll see it on animals alongside the road. You're like, oh my God, that stench. That's the bacteria and the gases that ended up exploding with those animals. Again, this is all part of the system to break down this beautiful physical being of a body that we are in, right? Should we fear death? There are no experiences beyond death. Death is the final and total outcome end in this physical state. In the physical state. So I'm going to have more. We have to go on break. And then as soon as we come back from break, I have about another 15 minutes. And then I'm going to bring on the expert. I'm going to bring on my dear friend, Jackie. And she's going to come on. And she is our death doula. And I absolutely love these types of people because it helps care for those individuals. You're listening to MBR Radio. At MB Radio. I gotta stop saying that, Jewel. MBradio.us. You can find us on most any platform out there, Military Broadcast Radio, or you can get our app, and then you can have our radio side and our talk side. So let's go to break, and we're gonna do Mitch Rossell because I just really love Rich Rossell. So we'll be right back.
Been home about 6 months now, and I still have my doubts. Well, I'm not sure how I got here or how I'm gonna get out. Well, my mama says I look the same as I did before I left. But if she could see inside of me, it would scare her to death. Well, I can still taste the powder from the barrel of my gun, and I can hear my sergeant screaming, "Run, soldier, run!" And I can feel the backpack on my shoulders, God, and weighed a ton. And I see death in every single thought. Well, they taught me how to put that uniform on. I just can't get it off. Last Saturday they honored us in a small parade downtown. And when they shot off those fireworks, I nearly hit the ground. And while they smiled and cheered for us, all I could do was stare. 'Cause part of me is here at home, but part of me's back there. Well, I can still taste the powder from the barrel of my gun, and I can hear my sergeant screaming, "Run, soldier, run!" And I can feel the backpack on my shoulders, God, and weighed a ton. And I see death in every single thought. taught me how to put that uniform on. I just can't get it on. Yeah, there's no end in sight. 'Cause even though I'm home now, I'm still fighting for my life. Well, I can still taste the powder from the barrel of my gun, and I can hear my sergeant screaming, "Run, soldier, run!" And I can feel the backpack on my shoulders, got it weighed a ton. And I see death in every single thought. Well, they taught me how to put that uniform on. I just can't get it all. Well, the devil's won some battles, and he may win some more. But don't he know the American soldier will always win the war?
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Okay, we're back. Yeah, how fitting, right? The military soldier. Death is talked about quite a bit, and especially for Mitch Rousseau, is we can't take that uniform off. And so we see our frontliners, our foot soldiers, and our battleship people, they see a lot of death. And so that's why we're talking about it, because we're talking about it so that we can all heal and we can all understand it a little bit more better, because we signed up for this, right? Remember, you're not here unless you wrote your life plan to be here. And you're not here without an exit plan. And you have written that exit plan. There are some beliefs that you've written that exit plan at 7 different times of your life that you were allowed to take that exit journey. So right before break of our beautiful MBR station here, we were talking why it's so hard and why we should not fear it, right? A lot of reasons people fear death. It's an absurd amount of reasons, right? The person who is dying, they could fear it just because they don't feel that their family members, like we said before, are ready. They fear it because they feel there's a lot of guilt that they have in their lifetime that they don't want to face. There is the unknown factor of now what? Maybe they have very little faith. So there's a lot of different reasons that people might have to fear death, but our death helps our creatures and our beings and our life live stronger, because every person is here to teach another person some part of life. Bet you didn't know you were a teacher, but you all are. Every single one of us are a teacher, whether we teach our children, whether we teach a stranger, whether we give that's why they always say that there is no such thing as a stupid question. The question is stupid if you didn't ask it. So these people who go through death, they have questions, they have concerns. People who are watching it for the first time, they have no idea. It's kind of like, going through anything in life as our body. I can only speak as a female. So as my body had changed, puberty and then adolescence and then perimenopause. And our body starts to break down everywhere. You have taught me so much. I love you, Janet. Good morning. You're very so it's hard, but if we can get, especially my baby boomers, I love my baby boomers. I love my elderlies, because what wisdom you installed for survival, what wisdom that you have given us. So if anybody is out there with some type of ailment or some type of issue, then I think what you need to do is you need to open up and you need to talk about that. Jose Flores, Motivational Mindset. Good morning. Good morning, sir. I've watched you on that Weekend Warrior. Wow. I'm impressed. It takes that much energy just for me to come out of bed. I might feel like death in my bed. Good on you, Jose. Good on you. So is death hard to accept? Absolutely. There are so many reasons. Shock, denial. When somebody cares and passes away, our brains often go into a shock format. It's a surrealism. It's like, I can't believe this is happening. You could tell somebody they're dying for 6 months, and yet until that damn day they die, there's not a tear, there's not a thing, because it's a shock. It's an improvision, just like the vets, right? Just like our military. They see the death, but they have to swallow it. Most people on that front line are on a survival mode. Those endorphins don't have time to process this until later, and hence the PTSD, right? When we care about passing away, our brains often go into that shock formation. It's a natural defense mechanism that we can all make into a harder process of what's happening unless we just let go. Let go, let God, let love, right? Or let go, let love, let God. Which one? Denial also is a setback of a way to cope of overwhelming emotions. So our brains always, and our nerve cells require a constant supply of oxygen. So ironically, people will say, what dies first? Well, normally it's the heart. The heart has to give the oxygen into the brain. So after 5 minutes of death, then for a few minutes after postpartum period, the brain cells, they may survive up to 20 minutes. So the heart, if it keeps beating without a blood supply, then there's no more oxygen, right? So if the heart goes, then the mind is on a short circuit, right? It is on a countdown of the oxygen within that body. It's hard to know this, what dying people think about. But that's the other question. What do you think is going through their mind when they can't even logically speak? And I think what they're going through is things that come back in, right? I watched my own family, and as they watch things come back in, those things that are coming back into them are different things that they had to live through and may have had a disgruntled or an event that they're reliving to try to, we're balancing this out. That's one of the things. People always want to speak about relationships with the people that they love and who love them, what life means to them, and how they might, I don't want to say like remember, or the reality of death, their hopes that they won't be a burden to others. They're worried about the cost of living. They're worried about the money. They're worried about how you're going to afford this, or how you're going to live without them, because their job that they did within the homestead, or how they, were educating their family. Okay. This is where it goes right back in. This is where it hurts, right? Because that person needs to be about them right now. They have to be. They have to have that self-love. They have to have that self-love to say, Father, Mother, God, I'm on my way. Father, forgive me of all of the sins that I've corrupted or have not balanced. This is what I want you to get in practice with. I don't even shed a tear at funerals. It's hard for me to shed a tear. I can only be happy. And I'm happy because I know they're going to eternal peace and rest, or the reincarnating of whatever there was. But they did the task at hand, unless those who commit suicide, and that's the sad part. Those people who commit suicide, you're going to have to come back and relive all of this over again. Do you really want to do that when you've already made it to this apex in your life? This apex that we struggle, this apex that is so damn hard. You need to reach out. There is ways out. But committing suicide, that death, that's hard. That's hard on everybody. It's not a plan. It's not segregated. It was a free will choice of the physical, not the spiritual mind. So that hurts. That hurts. And I think it really hurts the family when that happens. It's an unexpectedness. It is, or the family watching them struggle and then feeling hopeless. It's the father in the labor room watching a parent or a mother giving birth. That helpless feeling that I got to be able to do something. That's extremely amount of pain. And that hurts. because you just want to care for them. You want to be there for them. You want to be able to say, I got you. I'm going to take your pain away. There's a lot of people who question, where do we go after death, right? What happens there? Well, there's a lot of different beliefs, and it really depends on your religional beliefs or how you were brought up or your belief patterns. I can tell you there are many religions, such as Christianity, Islam, and various pagan beliefs that believe that the soul's existence is in another world, while others, such as Hinduism and Buddhism, believe that it's immediately reincarnated again, because we need that knowledge and that wisdom to keep moving on. Hence, in Hinduism, where, like we had discussed, I think it was last night, we were discussing it on Beyond the Headlines, where we were saying how it is in Hinduism, even though Hare Krishna, right, it is, and Shiva are all the same embodiment. So you have Rama, Brahma, and then Shivaya, and then back into Hari. It's an embodiment that comes through. So depending on what religion, depends on what your belief system truly is. When someone dies, do they really know they're dying? Well, if you're on a battlefield and you get shot, you feel it, and it's probably going to be very quick, right? People who are dying of cancer, yes, you're dying because your platelets, and they keep telling you they're not getting any better, but they're dying when you no longer can hear. These are the people who are at immediate deaths. You no longer hear their heartbeat. Their heart stops. The brain stops functioning. Then minutes later, studies suggest the brain activity can actually continue, as we talked about, for several minutes after the person has been declared dead. So then why are we scared? Why are we scared if we believe and have a religion? There's all sorts. Because of the unknown, of the non-existence, because of eternal punishment, because of loss of control of fear, and then the fears come right back into play. And so at that point, I believe that in your conscious mind, they talk about, now Dr. Pirania says that 2 to 20 seconds is the consciousness of after the heart stops. So when the heart stops beating and the pronunciation, you have 2 to 20 seconds to say, I love you. That's why we cross with people. I love you. I will forever love you. See you on the other side. However your family says it, sometimes it gets to you, right? You're like that deep emotion, that big swallow. And then you don't have to be that strong person anymore and hiding those tears and hiding that, and then you can let it all out. And there's people who don't let it all out, even though they watch it. That becomes very hard. That's why we have Jackie on here today, because Jackie's going to tell us how she, as a death doula, helps the family, helps to do everything we're talking about. This is why we're talking about it, because now that we know these things are going to happen, Jackie's going to come on and tell us how. There are 2 stages of death people always talk about, and I want to make sure we know those before we bring Jackie on. We're going to go to break, and then she'll come on. It's a clinical death. That occurs when somebody's actual heart stops beating. It's about 4 to 6 minutes later, brain cells start to die from the loss of oxygen, and biological death occurs. According to the American AED and CPR Association, which certifies people's first aid and pulmonary CPR, what do they call that? Practices to try to revive somebody. So it is then at that time, then that body can be resuscitated, right? But if the brain is dead and the heart is dead, it is then a biological death. It's no longer clinical. So these are, good morning, Miss Neva. So Miss Neva, I call her the Angel of Mercy. She is a nurse, and she is, I wouldn't call her a death doula like Jackie, but what she is as a nurse is she comes in, and when people are watching them go downhill, she's able to come in. She has a most beautiful gift to be able to see that beautiful soul start the ascension. And that's why she is called the Angel of Mercy, because she is there to help protect and guide them, as nobody is like, they don't know the people in emergency settings or in a hospital setting, or when they're in that apex of trying to resuscitate a body. Neva, I love you. And I can't even imagine, I can't even imagine how hard that must be. Good morning, Miss Terry, Trace Around Podcast. So these are all, I want key points. If you have a paper and pencil or you're on your phone right now, I want you to hear these key points because I want to hear Jackie's reaction, and we're going to bring them up again. Key points to consider with death: emotional numbness, eternal processing, relationships with your deceased. What's your coping mechanism? If you're scared and you don't think that dying person is scared if they don't have faith, love them. That's all I can say. We have to go to break, but you need to love them. And when we come back, some of these things we're going to talk about with Jackie, I want her to tell you, because some of these things are so important, enabling us to get through the steps of grief. So let's go down here, and we're going to go to DJ Cloudo, do a really quick, and then we'll come back with the interview. Here we go.
Tune in to Clado's Cacophony of Sound every Saturday night from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern on Military Broadcast Radio at mbradio.us or on Twitch at DJ_Clado. MBR, giving veterans a voice.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Welcome back to mbradio.us. I'm MJ with the World of Conscious Positive Thinking. Today is episode 28, and we are talking about Death Becomes Her. So it's more about helping people going through the process, because every year somebody dies, and every year we have to good morning, Red, and the freedom of struggle. He is so prominent here at our MBR radio. He gives that voice for people who struggle with addictions. God love him, and many praises to those who have those. But don't ever forget, clove works too. So maybe I can help and give Red some clove droppers for those who have those addictions, because it works. So between faith and natural part of God's creation is the clove. It is a beautiful thing to stop addictions. But anyway, we are back here, and here we go.
Interview of the week sponsored by LTD Tactical.
Jackie, how are you, my friend?
Good morning. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for stopping in. Jackie, I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself, because who knows you better than you?
Well, thank you for having me on today. I am an end-of-life doula, and I am also going to start working and looking into working with grief a lot more, because I think that it kind of goes hand in hand with what an end-of-life doula does.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So what does an end-of-life doula do?
Well, it's kind of a new profession to a lot of people. It's something that way back in the day, our ancestors used to do a lot more. We used to take care of the body. We used to take care of the sick. We used to spend a lot of time with them as they were transitioning. Once they had passed, we would clean the body. We would mourn with the body. And now it's kind of become a very commercialized thing where we just see them at the hospital. They pass away. We leave, and we see them at the wake, or we don't see them at all anymore. It's changed a lot. Like I said, it's become very commercialized, but you still have options. And I think that's one of the most important things for people to know. People think that the only way that, all this can happen is once you pass away, you go and you have a wake and that's it. The person's buried or cremated. There are so many options out there and so many things that you can do. They even offer home funerals. There are actually groups that will come out and help you hold a home funeral with your loved one. so you can spend time, so you can go through the mourning and the grieving process, which I think is so important, which a lot of people, like you said, don't really get the chance to do that. Hence, we keep it all inside. It stays there for a very long time, and then it just becomes like a snowball effect. And you have other issues and problems, and that never goes away. Death is something that we will grieve, and we'll usually grieve that for the rest of our lives. Differently, it changes. It never really goes away, but it does change. How we deal with it and how we work through it, I think, is very important. I think that just some people have the mentality that, you can't cry, you can't shed a tear, you got to be tough. And that's not really the case. There are lots of different ways to work through the grief. And sometimes doing things like yelling or playing music or dancing or breaking something gives you a kind of release that you enjoy, but you don't do it enough to completely and continuously work through that grief.
Do you agree with people being around a loved one when crossing?
If the person wants that, if the person passing would have wanted that, I know it can be a very personal thing. I would not want to impose on anybody that has already said, I want to be by myself. I don't want anybody. But I believe for me, I don't think anybody should die alone. But like I said, that depends on that person. I'm speaking for myself. I don't know how if that person's very private and they wouldn't want anybody around, I'd respect that, obviously. But I honestly don't feel like anybody should die alone. And in hospitals, you see a lot of people dying alone, which is sad.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe, good morning, Miss Kiara. She's the Smile Show. She's on this as well. I love you and I adore you so much. And she says she's a crier. It's okay. Crying is, I always say, I call the tears diamonds, and we are the wealthiest people in the world to be able to have them, because sometimes allowing these diamonds to come out, especially in a grieving process, in my practice, I believe that it is a healing modality. When I tell people I don't cry anymore is because I already know that transition is going to be the most beautiful new beginning of somebody's life. And that's my belief system of faith. So for me, I know we are all on borrowed time here. So I want to validate. I want to make every belief and flip pattern about death the most joyous, the most beautiful, heck, my sister, she wrote it in her will that you will have a tie-dye shirt on and you will be dancing and joyful, and there will not be like these multiple days of how it used to be. She's changing her program within her family. She doesn't want it. And she refuses to let anybody come to her funeral in black. So she was going around going, I need somebody to be like at the door going, black, I don't think so, put this shirt on. And so there's different ways people do handle it, even for themselves. And I understand it. And it's, and sometimes it's an easier way, right? It's an easier way to handle. It's kind of like our egos and judgments. When you want to be angry, smile. I always tell people smile. It confuses it, right? I don't want you to be confused about death. That's not what I'm saying at all. Kiara says, I don't believe anybody should ever be alone either. Well, and that is why Jackie exists. This is why Jackie Spirits exists, so that it can help. Even if you have to run with a dog or take a child, that she is there for your family as well as you, to say, I'm here for you. I can hug you. I can do whatever for you. And death doulas make it so that this teaching, if nobody has ever taught somebody about death and nobody's been near death, Jackie's going to make that life so much easier. And just go ahead and cry. And a lot of people say, don't cry in front of them. You'll make them feel bad. Well, I don't know, Jackie. Does that make them feel worse?
The case that I had, I would not cry in front of her. And they tell you when you're doing the training that it's okay if you cry. Just don't cry more than the family or more than the patient. But it's okay. It's perfectly normal. It's your emotions, and you can't always control your emotions right away. But it is normal to cry. It is very normal. I don't think it really makes them feel bad. In that very last moment, what they're going through, they know what's happening, and they see it how everybody else is going to deal with it, how it's happening. But it very much depends on, everybody is so different, MJ. Everybody is different about how they go through the process, who they want around, the things that happen. Death doesn't always happen in the same order. Everything is just so different. Each individual person is their own world. So when you're sitting with them, even if you sat and you trained for I don't know how many hours, when you're sitting one-on-one with one person and that person's going to make this huge transition, you really have to break down your barriers, go down to basic humanity, and just go in raw. Like, that's the best way I can say it, because my process with one person is never going to be the same with two people.
Right.
It depends on that person, their belief system, what they like, what they don't like, who they want around. It depends on everything. So it's like your relationships. Your relationship with me is not the same relationship you have with your sister or with your other friends. You know, everybody is so different. There's no way to properly tell anybody how everything is going to be. You just have to go through the motions at that moment, you know?
Yeah. So when somebody is on their deathbed, and the person, like, I can only, like I said, on some of the people I've witnessed, they don't want, like, they cry, they go, I don't want to go, I'm scared. How, as a doula, do you calm that individual in crossing?
Well, the most something that can be helpful is you ask a lot of open-ended questions. Sometimes there's a lot of stuff that they haven't resolved. So they're at this point where they're going to cross over and they don't want to go, either because they feel like their family is going to be left out in the cold. They're not going to know how to run the house. They're not going to know what bills need to be paid. And it's funny because these things come up and you're like, are you kidding? Like, you're something big is happening here. But then again, their feelings and their fears are very valid. So they're worried about how everybody else is going to get through things without them telling them what needs to get done. But you just can't worry about that kind of stuff. So you ask a lot of open-ended questions. Preferably, as a death doula, what we do is we can advocate for that person. Meaning, hopefully, and in the most perfect scenarios, we get to spend a few weeks to months with them. That way we really get to know them, get to know their family situation, get to know if they have anything that they're dealing with, any unresolved issues that they would like to get resolved. We can schedule Zoom calls. We can send letters. We can do video recordings. We're basically friends that sit there, but we're from the outside. So we don't sit there and we're like, oh, you shouldn't talk to this person, or you shouldn't send a message. Like, I think you should ignore this person. No, we're from the outside.
We don't shit on anybody, right?
No.
So shitting all over ourselves.
We ultimately are just there to serve whatever it is you feel you want to do before this time, and we're there to help you. Like I said, best case scenario, you have a few weeks, so you get to know the person, you know what's going on, you get to know the dynamics with the family, with the friends, and whatever it is that they want to get resolved before that time, hopefully you will have the time to do that.
Yeah.
But that depends on the person.
There's a question that came up for you, Jackie. It's from Kiara, The Smile Show. How did you know this was your calling?
Well, I'm not going to say I'm not religious anymore, but I'm more spiritual. I don't believe in everything in one religion. Let me just say that. When I heard about a death doula, I know that many years ago, I would hear that there were people that, would go to the funerals and they do like wailing and I was like, that's so weird. And then I started, watching stuff and reading about grief. And I was like, well, it makes sense. That's a way to release that. And it's a way to feel what's going on through dance. There's interpretive dance. There's so many different things you can do. And I was like, that makes sense. And then one day I heard death doula and I was like, what is a death doula? And I, started researching and I was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. What more humbling experience, if not just to sit with a person and just give them that undivided attention and just do whatever it is you possibly can as a human being to make them feel just a little bit better, if that. What more can you ask for than to have the opportunity to sit with somebody and just give them the opportunity to get something off their mind or off their chest, or get something resolved that is going to be so important to them right before they pass. I mean, I just fell in love with the idea. I researched, I started looking at the different schools, and I started watching their videos about it. And there are a few movies that have come out about it. And I absolutely fell in love with the idea. So I said, okay, I'm going to try the training. I'm going to see how it goes. There are so many people in these trainings that many of them are going through, like what I said, I'm going through my midlife crisis, like I feel like I want to study something. I want to do something. And they're changing their careers halfway through. They're like, I had a calling. I really feel like this is something I need to do. And that's exactly what happened. Once I read about it and I learned about it, I said, I have to do this. I have to figure out how to do this, how to serve, how to help anybody that I can. And I fell in love with the idea, and I just started doing it.
That's awesome. You made a comment before we go to break. I want to discuss it really quick. You made a comment. You no longer am a religious person, is more as spiritual. So do you have to study an exuberant amount of different theologies in order for you to know when you go in how to handle that religion or that denomination of that religion of that person and family?
That very much depends. So in the class itself, you're taught very much the basics. The kind of doula you become is going to depend on the time you put into your work. So for myself, being that I would like to work with the Jewish community, for example, I am part of a Shomer group online. And what we do is we hold monthly meetings. And that way I can get further educated on how to deal with and help in the Jewish community. It all depends. If that person is open to accepting you and you being their death doula without you being from their religion, then they can do so. But I would like to be better prepared, let's just say.
Yeah. Kiara says that was amazing and beautiful. Thank you. So, I would think it would be a little bit difficult if I didn't know somebody's denomination, because especially religion has a lot of death rituals, practices, right? Different religions have different, like, for instance, my mother, when my father died, we got a double plot. And it's open obviously for when she passes, because nobody gets out here alive. So we obviously are looking ahead. But because it's not a Catholic cemetery, we have to make sure that that plot is actually blessed with holy water, and the priest comes out to bless it before it goes down. So these are little bitty tidbits. So as a death doula, that's a lot of responsibility. Do you feel stressed with that, having to know, or do you just not take it if you don't know the religion enough?
I would take it. You know why? Because I like a challenge. I would definitely do my research. I'd ask the family, and I would definitely find out before, the time. But I would take the challenge.
Wow, that's good on you, right? Because they obviously came to you with an honor. Do you vet by any chance? I know there's some practices that we do vet because we just want to make sure that we're capable of being able to do that. What does that? Please forgive me, but I thought death or the Grim Reaper helped people cross over. Is there any truth to this? You want to take that, Jackie?
I don't. I will tell you, there is a unspoken area when it comes to death. Some things are not explained scientifically. So I don't believe in the Grim Reaper. I don't know if that is what happens. I do know that there are things that happen that we can't normally explain. So I do believe there's more.
As an energist, I'm going to try to, as an energist, explain it. So as an energist, I have the ability to be able to see energetic auras around people, right? their emotion, decoding their capabilities. So I was once called a Grim Reaper. That's the only word I heard that I was like, So because I wasn't able to go, this is the story. I wasn't able to go to my class reunion. And it was like, I think it was like the 30th class reunion or whatever it was. But there was a bunch of people there, and they took this really nice picture. And there were orbs, but one of those orbs were what I consider the Grim Reaper. Like when I see that, and I literally said, who's sick? Someone, and when I see that, it's 30, you got 30 days. Didn't like the name Grim Reaper. And one of my masters and grandmasters said it's not. When they consider the Grim Reaper, some people consider the Grim Reaper Archangel Gabriel, because it's Archangel Gabriel who blows that horn, right? He blows the final judgment horn. And so when people say that they hear the horn, they hear the music. It's Archangel Gabriel. That's one of the religions. Another religion believes that death has to come in order for the soul into Pachamama to be prepared. Seeing energy closing in, encapsulating. I don't like the name Grim Reaper. I like the name of a gatekeeper. And if I didn't know how to tell people, I would see it. And I really didn't know. I didn't know how. This is what we're discussing now. They had posted it, and this is exactly what we're discussing. So maybe not the Grim Reaper. Neva, who was here before, I called her the Angel of Mercy, right? Or the Angel of Crossing. There's a lot of names that we can put, but titles aren't important. I think what's important is love. I think what is important is the acknowledgement. I think what is important is figuring out our emotions to it instead of putting a title, right? I don't like titles. I've never taken a title of owner or president or bookkeeper. I've never taken a title. I don't like them. I think that was the hardest thing for me in the military, because they strip you like a pickle, and then they want to put a title with, are you an officer? Are you enlisted? Are you a master sergeant? You say, like, why the title? If we are all here on the same cognizance, then why the title? And I understand it. In the logicness, I understand why they title, because somebody always has to have a power or a controlling in order for unifiable things to be done accurately. I get it. But the Grim Reaper name, I think I'm like you. I don't think it's an old clichéic name. And I think it was there to put people in fear, and hence the image that's in everybody's mind. Again, man conditions us in our mind by interpretation, and it feeds us. And then once we get it implanted into our head, then what? Now we can't let go, because man's conditioned us to believe that, or to understand something that causes us to have fear. And every time man makes me want to believe in fear, I have to figure out, where's that seed? I have to figure out why. Why is this not balanced? Why is this such a dreadful thing that you get that choke, that deep swallow, that choke in your throat? And then that is for when I do the belief in slip patterns. That's me personally. Kiara says, I do apologize. I don't think of that title as bad. It's not bad. But man has conditioned the Grim Reaper to be bad, Kiara. That's what I'm trying to say. And Neva, who is a nurse, I was just thinking that, MJ, perhaps the Grim Reaper is just a name that there are so many names. Yes. An energy that is a witness of the souls is transcending from one another. Yes. So depending on the culture and belief systems that you are in, just like I was asking Jackie, we have to understand that there are so many titles that people give us from so many different denominations, religional basis, upbringing, conditional patterns, that it's like the English language. One word might mean a plethora of different things, right? So Grim Reaper tends, in my vocabulary, tends to have a negative derivative because of how I was taught of a Grim Reaper, right? Gatekeeper then became a different titlement than to somebody who watches souls ascend, such as a Death Doula or such as an Angel of Mercy. Like these, you see how they're getting lighter and lighter as that evolution. I love to evolve into something more pleasant, more beautiful, more caring, more giving. And death is the hardest one. There is so much attached to death and emotions that it's a very strong, powerful person who can handle those emotions without claiming the emotion within the self of our heart. That's how I feel. That's why I love what Jackie does, because I don't know if I could see death over and over and over and over and over again, just with who I am. Do I understand death? My answer is yes, I do. Right? I understand. And if I know that somebody has an illness or a death and leading up to it, I can make sure that I affirm, I love, I validate, and I'm right there. What ones hurt me the most are the ones that are not suspecting. Because how do you affirm? How do you love? How do you get that out when somebody's life is taken so quickly? And that's where I think in my journey of my own life, I struggle. I do struggle. And Kiara says, I see the love. Yeah. And then Neva's back there. There is so much light in death. There is, because it's a new beginning. It's such a brand new beginning. And it's a plethora of just being at the estate of everything is balanced, everything's quiet. I told in the beginning I had a near life experience, and it was quiet. I saw it as not a white light, but more cobalty, very light cobalty color. And just like I have not being able to replace that sound, that noise. And the only thing I want to say is it's a high pitch, but it doesn't hurt your ears pitch. And it is just, I don't know, it is the epitome of euphoric. It's the epitome of all the beauty that exists of love. That's what I felt. You know, that was my experience. And of course, I was on an operating table when it all happened. And yes, I could see. Yes, I did come above. And yes, I watched them cutting. And yes, I watched them with anesthesia. And yes, I watched them pounding my heart. Yeah, I watched it. And then to find out later when I told the story, it was true. So I believe there is an epitome of patience. And I believe there is an epitome of light there ever after. Though we may not understand that or see that at the context of the grief. Exactly. I have to go to a break. But Jackie, when we come back, I want to know how, and you can start thinking about this, people who talk to you about near deaths. And then as a death doula, how you correspond with them. Okay. That's when we come back. You're listening to mbradio.us. We are on every platform there is for social medias, podcastings that there are, Twitch, Amazon Fire Stick. You can go to Roku, Spotify, and we even have our own app. So you can go to mbr.us and look for our app and then download it. And then you'll get both our talk side and our radio side. We are world renowned, and we have been doing this for a while, and it's here to give veterans the voice. This show on MBR is called The World of Conscious Positive Thinking. My name is MJ. My guest today is the beautiful Jackie Ingersoll, who is our death doula, and that's where we have. So this is really quick. Go, MJ, with the things. All right, here we go. We're going to go back, and we're going to do something really short, Jackie. Let's do Monday. We're going to do Monday by Tree Woods.
I laid down on Sunday, dreading the morn to be dreading my life. I'm so tired of the paper chase, tired of the average pace, tired of the lies. Would woke up the sirens where just as the ceiling fails, they stayed just in time. Make my way into the streets, no one was watching me. They ran for their lives. This kindness feels the sky, and the ground begins to shake. Then I'm still alive. But it's just a Monday for me. Who would have thought it'd be the end of the world? Just a Monday for me. Who would have thought it'd be the end of the world? Just a Monday for me. Who would have thought it'd be the end of the world? Just a Monday for me. Who would have thought it'd be the end of the world? Just a Monday for me. Who would have thought it'd be the end of the world? I'll be waiting in the morning light. The sun comes up to defeat the night. I'll be waiting in the morning light. I'll be waiting in the morning light. I'll be waiting in the morning light. The sun comes up, it'll be alright. I'll be waiting in the morning light. I'll be waiting in the morning light. I'll be waiting in the morning light. The sun comes up, it'll be alright. I'll be waiting. It's just a Monday for me. Who would have thought it'd be the end of the world?
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Hey, welcome back to mbradio.us. You're listening to the World of Conscious Positive Thinking. My name is MJ, host of the show, and my co-host today is Miss Jackie as our guest, and she is an end-of-life doula. We are talking about death. It's one of the subjects people don't talk about a lot, but being on MBR, I think it's really important because a lot of our PTSD vets suffer very much with the grief aspect of death, either knowing of a battle buddy or actually administrating a deathful or a lethal blow or a shot to somebody. While we were away, got a couple of comments. I want to start real quick. Neva also made the comment that we may not understand that or see that at first, the context of our grief. We were talking about the Grim Reaper when she posted that. And then, of course, we had a Maverick, which is Matthew Lucci, who is another DJ on the air who does speaking about broadcast radio. So welcome, everybody. Thank you and welcome back. So we're now going to ask some questions to Jackie. One of the things I believe is how important is it for everybody to be ready with their wishes at the end of life, Jackie?
Well, I believe that that's one of the most important things. It's important because, number one, you're going to get things the way you want. And number two, you're going to take that stress off of your family, trying to guess what you would have liked or how you would have liked things handled. It just makes everything so much easier. It's something that
about the funeral itself, like my sister, are you talking that, the expenses? I mean, what does that involve?
Just about everything. How, if you want to leave stuff behind for family members, who do you want to get what? Your DNR, like all your medical paperwork. So if you're in a situation in case of an emergency, your family doesn't have to make those decisions for you. They already know what you would have wanted medically, how you would have wanted everything handled. If you want to leave stuff to family members, what do you want to leave? Who do you want to get what? What do you want sold? What do you want done with the money? Anything like that. And then how do you want to be celebrated? A lot of people now are doing celebrations of life while they're alive, which I think is an amazing, amazing idea. You get to celebrate with your friends and family, whoever you want to invite, and celebrate your life with these people while you're still in it. Not once you're gone, but you're actually there. And a lot of people are taking this route. I've seen quite a few people do it when they have a terminal illness. And while they're still healthy enough to participate and be comfortable, but they'll say, oh, let's have a celebration of life. I want to do something out on the beach. I want to invite these people and I want them to bring this. And I want everybody to, they'll come up with some kind of craft or something that they want to, have done that day. Bring pictures or bring music. Everybody bring an instrument, whatever it is. But it's a way for them to participate in these events.
It's funny you said that. My father, I'm going to go back to my father. We had Christmas in October because they told us he wasn't going to make it. Christmas was his holiday. I mean, he ended up strong-willed, man, strong mind, but he ended up holding on for several extra months, and he made it to Christmas Eve. I buried him on my birthday, and I thank him. I thank him for that, and I thank that my family was able to get together and let him see his Christmas before he was into a state of just the body was. I don't know if anybody has ever witnessed a cancer death, but they are basically skin and bones at the end, and it just consumes them. And so I was so thankful for that. And I believe that's what you're talking about, doing things before that. He couldn't walk. He had a hard time getting up and around. So we knew that it was inevitable and it was coming. So we wanted to honor him with Christmas in October. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
So I see that. I can see why people would want to do parties like that. And so thank you for bringing that up. Do you know, how long is it getting more and more popular? Is it like weeks before? Is it months before? How does that really work?
Sometimes people, by the time they're already seeing a doctor and they already know that they have some kind of terminal illness, they'll schedule that, try to do it like a few months before, at the very least a few weeks, just so they can participate. Just, once they get to the point where they can't participate, I haven't seen that happen. I'm not saying it hasn't, but I think that you just have to just enjoy everything. And even if it's just to go sit out in a picnic at the beach or something, whatever it is, just do that for them, because that would be something that they will, that's a memory that you're going to have with that person.
Yeah, absolutely. It is. I love it. I love that. I love it. And I love it because then you get to honor, validate, love, and affirm, right? And they're the four main, not to get into a stagnation of emotion where we will go to the rabbit hole and we can't get out. And I believe that is so beautiful. I love that, Jackie. I love that so much. Do you encourage people to do that?
To do what? The celebration?
Have a gathering.
Well, I do ask what it is that, they would like. And they'll tell me that if they just want to have their family around, or that they want, everybody together for dinner. And, then I share that information with the family. Once I'm working with a person, that's like, I advocate for that one person, whatever else is going on the outside of that circle. Right. I really have no control over, but I will let them know exactly what that person requests.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen them done where the people are truly just incapable of getting up or getting around, where they just, as a family unit, they come in? Because whether a death doula or somebody will be like, if you want to see them alive, you always hear, if you want to see them alive, you need to come now. And is that putting pressure on somebody who has to fight traffic, have to fight this, that, have to fight? I mean, I have second opinions about that. What do you think?
Well, I have seen it done. Well, it's been like a very last minute kind of thing, but if that's your family member and you really want to be there, you're going to be there no matter what. You won't feel that pressure. You're just going to make sure you get there. That depends on the person and then the situation. It's the person's going to say what they want, but they can't control what everybody else does. They're just going to put it out there, what they want to get done. And if everybody else can coordinate and get it done, then perfect. If not, then there's nothing that can be done.
Neva, heart total shattered several years ago. Her husband died and through the COVID. And when she first came into our classes, she has made such leaps and bounds. And I think Eugene was the purpose for her to be able to be what we call the angel of crossing. So she said the secret is the time is now, like you're saying. It is now. Now is the time when people have it. And then Kiara makes the comment, do you see them before they pass or after? Oh, are you talking to me? Are you talking to Kiara? Hold on. I get so attached to people. I didn't want to work in hospice. That happens. I mean, there's some people who are very strong about it. And there's some people. So she's talking to you, Jax. Do you get to see these people before or after they pass? So that goes back to the question. I go, wait, what does that mean? Do you see them before they pass or after?
The last person I worked with, I saw her and I sat with her for 2 hours before she passed away. I had a feeling she was going to pass away, and I kind of knew. But I came home at peace because I was able to hold her hand and, brush her hair and just sit there and be in silence with her and just tell her everything was going to be okay. And since she was particularly religious, I knew she would want to hear the prayer. So I prayed for her, and I prayed out loud, and it was just me and her. And I wanted her to feel comfortable and not be afraid of that last step that she was going to take. So
unlike hospice, a doula, you really try to get to know as much information about the person crossing to help them?
Yes. And another thing is, I have not been qualified to work in a hospice or in a palliative care or in a hospital because I am a death doula. So in order to work in any of these places as a volunteer, I'd have to go in only as a volunteer because they frown upon things that they don't know about. So they don't want me to go in and impose my opinion or my way of doing things. They want to train me and have me do things the way they want it done and not mention anything about end of life. So what I did was I started my own company, and I've been doing it privately.
Yeah. Choices are out there. I mean, but hey, maybe there's hope, Jackie, because at least now the hospitals are seeing that within the four modalities, the Western medicine, Eastern, alternative, and miscellaneous, now a lot of hospitals are bringing in meditation, yoga, and bringing in Reiki. So maybe there is hope for our beautiful spirituals like you and Neva and the rest who actually get to see death being in transition and knowing how to assist and help with the emotions or the grievances of some of these people. And I think that's beautiful. Obviously, that is just a way of just helping people and breaking down. So, you heard me before saying no one's getting out of here alive so you're just going to have to deal. You're going to have to learn to deal with this, and you're going to have to learn the emotions that go through it. And we're going to have to learn to love each other. But what would you say if people, how to better prepare them, or having a less stress on the families that they're going through it? Like, what would be some of the things that we can tell our listeners and our viewers how to assist in that aspect?
I think communication is key. and everything in life. If you say it, somebody knows and they heard what you said. So at least that much. It's not a surprise. It's not somebody's left wondering what you would have wanted. I think people need to sit down and talk about it. Just because you talk about it doesn't mean you're calling it, doesn't mean it's going to happen right when you say it. Don't be afraid of having conversations. Open up, say what you've got on your mind, say what you'd like to get done, how you'd want things to get done for you. There's even booklets and journals that you can now buy on Amazon that talk about my death wish. And it's literally like a check-off list of everything you want to get done, and passwords you need to you need to leave behind, bank information you want your family to have when you're no longer here. I think that it's important to have that information because you just never know when your time is going to come up.
Yeah.
And it can be something as innocent as you're by yourself on your bank account and you've got $12,000 sitting in your bank account. And if you pass away, that money doesn't go straight to your family. There's a process. So all these little things that we don't think about can hinder our family's well-being in the end. So just look it up, research, talk with friends, talk with people that know about it. Look up in the websites. There are lots of doula websites. There are lots of companies that are doing this doula work. And a lot of them have a lot of resources. So you can go onto their websites and just start looking through the resources and start learning about all the options you have. There are so many options and people don't realize that, but definitely there's a lot of options. Every month, there are multiple doula groups. We have a end-of-life doula organization just for Florida. We have end-of-life doula meetings that we hold for each individual company that does the trainings. You can log into those. A lot of those are open to anybody, and just listen to what they're talking about. Listen to what the options are. Listen to who's working in your area and what different things you can consider getting done, when you're getting to that point.
Now, obviously, these are people who have an inevitable illness or a disease that are, going to. But for our soldiers, especially here on the station, and a lot, like I said, a lot of our PTSD vets come back. It's the guilt that they have that they've killed another person. It's a lot of pressure on them, knowing that the bomb that they just put out of the plane or their tank or fired off the machine had just taken the lives of so many. As a death doula, do you help with them with that grievance process for them as well, even though they didn't know it as a family member? Or how would you go in helping some of our first responders who couldn't get people out of the building, or our vets? How would you respond to them?
Well, that's why I do want to go into the grief work a lot more. Like I said, I think that would go hand in hand with the doula work. And for the people that haven't passed or that have other issues about dealing with death, I think that the grief work is very important. That's one thing I would love to get into. I would love to be able to work with veterans. My husband is a veteran, so I would love to be able, even if it's just to sit and listen to what you got to say and offer any help. I do know that for the little bit that we've been trained on in reference to grief through doula work, letting it out, having these conversations is the first step. Acknowledging of, what it is that you're feeling and going through that first motion is probably the most important part and the first step to get any help with that.
Some people say that grief and guilt go hand in hand. Do you believe that?
Oh, I wouldn't know how to answer that. I think grief is just something that's such an immense emotion that is very hard to put into words and explain it. It's not something that happens all the time, and it's just a very random emotion, and it's very hard to understand. I don't know if I'd say guilt and grief go hand in hand.
So one of the philosophers I was reading, I should have put the name down. I'm really sorry, but maybe if I find it again. I was looking up, different questions about death. So I could ask. And one of the researchers are stating that the people who can't get over another person's death and grieving when it goes on for years is because they have either a guilt or they have an unsettledness to where they either have a guilt reaction, which is mournful, or they have an anger that that person left. And either way, it comes back to being in a guilt process. You're guilting the person dying for you not finishing something, or you feel the guilt that they died and didn't say something or finish with that person. And that's where that was coming from, because I read that and I was like, I never saw grievance as guilt.
Yeah.
But I guess in guilt ways, as a military person, by taking somebody else's life, that can become a grievance factor for them to go into withdrawal, or for them to go into a morally righteousness that some people want to place upon them, especially those who don't believe in the military or believing in wars or any type of that action. You know, is that guilt then part of that grievance? There's another Kiara. Do you have people who just don't cross over? When you get hired, I guess what she's asking, and if I'm not, Kiara, ask it again. But I think what she's asking is, has somebody ever hired you and just never passed? Like,
No.
How long is a hospice? How long is a death doula? How long is this that they, I mean, inevitably they're going to pass sooner or later.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to get here alive. So
absolutely not. Sometimes if they're in palliative care, it can be anywhere over 6 months to a year. Usually hospice is 6 months and less. The last person I worked with was for about almost 3 months. So it just depends. It depends on the person. But I have heard of cases where people are in a hospice location and they're released, and they come back 2 years later and then they're released again. So anything like that is possible. It just depends. And like I said, death is something that nobody can predict.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to take another break. Kiara said, because they are grieving to that. And then she said, or that they just don't want to pass. My dad, how he lived a whole month without food and water, nobody can explain it. Just, he wanted to cross on Christmas Eve. He wanted everybody, one of us, to know that he is Santa Claus and that he was there. That's my take. And I believe that the mind to heal the body is also the mind to shut the body down. That's my take for whoever. It's not proven. It's just my take. But anyway, we got to go back to a break here. And when we come back, we'll still be talking with Jackie about the end of life doula and how people can just go ahead and be okay with death and understand that it is just part of the process, right? And that's what we really like to see. So let's do another really quick, let's do the Veterans Day bumper since we're still in the month of November. And this was by the MBR crew.
In the proud spirit of America and in the proud spirit of our great country.
Just got three things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your
Today we gather to honor the men and women who've served in our armed forces. We celebrate their courage, their resilience, and their sacrifices they've made so that we can stand here in freedom. Veterans Day is a day of gratitude, yes, but it should also be a call to action. Because honoring veterans is just about remembering their service. It's about truly listening to their stories. It's about giving them a voice, not just a day of thanks, but a platform, a mic, and a listening ear every single day. For too long, veterans have come home from battles on foreign soil, only to face silence here. They've returned to a society that says thank you, but often doesn't know how to truly engage with them. But we can change that right here, right now. You see, when you hand a veteran the mic, you're giving them something beyond words. You're giving them a connection, purpose, and the space to share what it means to serve, to sacrifice, and to rebuild. You're giving them the chance to turn their thoughts, sometimes haunted and heavy, into words that cannot heal. Because when veterans speak, they don't tell their own stories. They speak for others who might be willing, struggling in silence. A voice isn't just a sound, it's a lifeline. And when we give veterans that voice, when we make space for their perspectives in our communities and conversations, we're not just honoring their past, we're strengthening their future. When a veteran shares their story, they're not just reliving their past, they're reshaping their future one word at a time. So today I challenge each of us to give a veteran in our lives the chance to share. Listen to not just reply, but to understand. Let their words sink in and be transformed by their experiences. Because a veteran with a voice is a veteran with power. Power to lead, to heal, and to inspire change. Let's give our veterans more than our thanks. Let's give them the mic, the platform, and our commitment to listen, because then they talk. We all grow. Thank you.
Hey, we're back, DJ Clado. Hey, we played your little what do they call it? Commercial, yeah, a little earlier. But welcome to the world of conscious positive thinking, and we are here with Jackie today. We are talking about death, such a subject a lot of people don't want to talk about, but here we are. And one of the insights that I put was my family. This is the time of the year where we go to the graves and we put wreaths on. And being back here in Pennsylvania, I was so honored to be able to do that. And I miss that. I love graveyards. I go in graveyards a lot. And I get like this prick in my hand. And I always know where there's a graveyard, or I always know where there's people buried. Somehow I get this picking in my hand and I'm like, there's a graveyard here. And then I just kind of balance all elements, give them praise, and worship. There's DJ Clado again. Oh, I missed it. Just got home from having breakfast with my wife. Well, we did play. You'll have to rewind and do it again. But so Jackie, back to some of the comments that we know that if it is a disease, people have a lot of time. And my vets on the front line, they don't have that type of time. They don't have. Is there anything for our vets who are medics on the front line, or for our battle buddies, that can help in that moment? That's where I think I would love to have somebody like you tell us how in that moment an action, we don't have a lot of time for it, but what is something that we could do to maybe help that grievance, or help that shock, or that denial, or that surrealism that my battle buddy just got shot. Where are we, Foxtrot? Where are we? That's hard.
That's a very tough question, and I really wish I had a really good answer for that. Everybody's different, but I do know that when a person is close to the end, one thing that if they can still talk and all that, we tell them about guided imagery, meditation. And what we do is, especially if we know anything about them, we'll ask questions like, tell me about your favorite place, or, take me back to this time, or just good memories at that moment. If they can talk and all that, would be one of the ways for them to just focus on something else other than what they're actually going through at that moment. So it's just like a guided meditation. You just think about like your favorite place to be, and what it smells like, and what it looks like, and what the weather's like, and who's there with you. And you just try to focus on things like that. There's actually an episode on Outlander where that happened. The guy is passing and he has a battle wound, and she's just like, tell me about your childhood. Tell me about that home you used to live in. How did it smell? And what did your mom used to make? Or, like anything that brings good memories at that moment, I think would be a nicer way than just to be anticipating what's going to obviously happen.
Yeah. Would it be proper to ask, is there any last wishes? Is it proper to say, what can I get? What can I relay? What message can I relay? like the last words. Maybe somebody, a wife or a child or a parent, maybe it might help in the comfort on the other end.
I believe at that point, that person knows what's going to happen. They might not be ready for it or not want that to happen, but they know that something serious is happening. And I think that asking those questions could help relieve some of that anxiety that that person's going through at that moment. If they have anything they want to make sure you tell my wife, or make sure you tell my husband, or make sure you tell my kids, or tell them that, you know, that I went fine, or whatever it is that they want to say, I would rather know.
Yeah.
I'd rather ask.
Oh, we have a long one here. It is so immense, this grief over the loss of you, a dense, jagged shroud of darkness. Every day I face it. Every day I look at it and let it pass through me. Sometimes the endless cosmic black, sometimes dapple with the sunlight, a paradox, this pain, this healing. For I know now the secret of my grief, that is an eternity of my love for you. Poems of Eugene. Oh. So that's beautiful. That's Eugene was the husband that passed. And that's what he wrote. That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
That's amazing. Yeah. So yeah, I can see battle buddies wanting to help, to be that death doula at that time, though I know there's not a lot of time. They kind of just drag them out of the action area and away they whisk them with the medics. But it's tough. Yeah. It's a tough one, and you have to breathe it out, because you want to not only protect yourself, but you also want them to have the last words. You want them to know that they're not alone, that you're right there. And being in that type of action, it's save yourself first, right? Yeah. Before you can actually help that other person. But we do. And I mean, any military or any branch, I really want to say, is no man is left. No man is left. We will find you. We will figure it out. We will bring you into a balance, or we'll bring you into a justice. But like I said, sometimes I feel ask them the questions, ask them, what message do you have? Do you have a message you want me to give? Or they might, I don't know. Sometimes it's hard, because sometimes they don't even get the chance. They can't even speak. I mean, it's just over and done with. And that is horrific to watch. I can tell you firsthand. It is. It's painful. And some people, they can let it go, but there's some people who have the image, and you're like, why? Why does man constantly want to do this? Why? Why do we want to put ourselves in a predicament because two egoic people decide they're going to have war? Yeah. And I get why we're here, but that emotion, I haven't been able to connect myself to that emotion. That emotion is strong, that I'm killing somebody else because of two people who can't be together. Or, here's the other one. We're killing our troops because two other nations, but because we're allies. These are thought processes that I can only imagine. The death of a first responder or a death of a military person, that being a death doula has to be so challenging. Challenging. I don't know. I didn't know how to handle that.
I think being a soldier is way, way more difficult. Being in that situation with everything happening on and all that chaos, and then also trying to help somebody else out at the same time that's going through this transition. I can't even imagine that, MJ. I mean, what I do, it's like I have the time. I have the, I can sit there, I can talk. You guys are out there actually doing this and going through these emotions with all this chaos going on. I couldn't even handle that. I couldn't even fathom that.
Yeah, I would love to write or to have help from one of you death doulas or angels of mercies, write something to help soldiers as like a soldier's memoir, but not so much of a memoir, but I can't think of the word I want to use, but something that you keep right here in your chest pocket, knowing on the battlefields, knowing what's the words that I can say? What is something that I'm going to be able to feel good about myself, my battle buddy? Like that to me is hard. It's very hard. It's not like a priest coming in, giving the last will and test, the last rites. That's not it. It is, as a soldier, did I do enough for my battle buddy? Did I say enough at the end for him to relieve or her to relieve any of that pain? Like that's how do we get through to them? How do we go forward, Jackie? How do we move?
That would be a beautiful idea. I've never thought about that before, but that would be something beautiful. Like I said, being on the battlefield to what I do out of an office and prepare and go into a meeting is completely different. At the end of the day, it's like just having that person get that off their chest, whatever it is that they want to say, whatever wishes, ideas, thoughts, fears, anything they have, as long to me as they can vocalize that, that's the very first step. Yeah. If I can at least get them to say what it is that they're afraid of and try to comfort them, I think that would be, I would serve my purpose if I was able to do that.
Who better to write this but you?
Yeah, absolutely.
I am not so sure, Neva. Yeah, I'm not so sure on that one. That one still, because it triggers the actual thought. It triggers the actual dismemberment, like you see it, like, and that's the PTSD. You see it, and it's there. I'm gonna take a minute. We'll be right back. Let's do something light. Let's go to the cave. Be right back. This cave is a one-stop shop to heal whatever ails you. Whether you just need downtime, whether you need respiratory or lymphatic, blood pressures, just any type of program that is medically necessary to you, I am sure salt's going to play one of those factors. I mean, we use saline for our eyes, we use salt water for our ears, we gargle with salt water for when we have sore throats, and we're even putting salt water spray, nasal sprays by our doctors up our nose. Except most of these things that are by our big pharma or our doctors are actually not salts, like Epsom salt. It's not even a salt. This is true to form. We're not kidding anybody. The properties are what they are. You can look it up in science magazines, health magazines. Himalayan salt is the only salt you want. You can digest it. You can eat it, burn it. You can lay in it like tub baths. You can use the actual steams with all the minerals so that you can actually put those minerals back in our skin and our face over hot steamy water. Salt, when you put the light on, sometimes they sweat and sometimes they water. Oh my gosh, my rock is leaking water. And that is the most perfect rock. I always tell everybody, I want that rock back. Because 1 out of every 100 rocks might sweat. And that's, it doesn't mean it's bad or good. It just means it's that much better. It's just that much better, right? Because we don't do negatives here. We do anything that's positive, that's what we do. Except our ions, we have to keep our ions negative. Why? Because the negative ion in the density of the salt creates our body to be a higher in pH balance, right? So that's the goal. Our goal is to raise our body in pH, lower the acidity level, because then we all become healthy. Healthy like weight, healthy like bacteria, viruses, fungus. None of them can penetrate. So that's the cool thing about our salt. So why not take a seat and get every amount of healing that your body can actually have for 1 hour in the salt cave. Let's get healthy together. Hey, welcome back. So yeah, so Neva does right. That pain, it is pain. It's a discomforting pain for vets. I'm not gonna lie. It is, though you're aware of it and honor it. It is the image of it that is replayed in the brain. It is the image that there's still a seed. There is still something that has to be balanced and understood. My balance and understanding for me to cause emotion is it's a senseless death because of two egos. It's a product of being a Templar and a warrior that on people on Earth, as far back as cavemen have been concerned, has been just something that exists, right? Protection, boundaries, making sure people understand that you just don't have free will to come and take. And I get that. I do. Honestly, I do. DJ Clado types in too. Big Pharma, they farm money from their patients. They are not in the cure to anything. If there's a cure to anything, they lose as a customer. If they treat the symptoms, then they have the customer for the rest of their life. Duh. I'm not quite sure, DJ, where that came from. But I'm glad you brought up Big Pharma, because there are people, Dr. Gevorkian, right, who was the merciful doctor. And Jackie, how do you feel about him?
Actually, I did a really big paper in school on him. I think he was doing the right thing. Why shouldn't you have the choice to pass away the way you want to pass away? Actually, there's medical aid in dying, and you have to take a cocktail, but you can't do it in the state of Florida. You have to be in California. So if you have a terminal illness and you know you're going to start getting really, really bad, you're already experiencing pain and discomfort, and you want to pass away peacefully, you're not allowed to do that. So you have to hop on a plane and go to California and have your cocktail there, and then have your family bring your body back, or do, whatever it is that you want. I think that that's not fair. Who has that choice? If that person has a terminal illness and they've made that decision, why do they have to go through this pain and anguish and then go into a hospice or be in a hospital for X amount of months until they pass the way they want you to pass?
When I was battling cancer cells and my life was going downhill, and I had a near death in that time frame, that was between 2009 and 2012, I always told my husband Ozzy, I said, listen, I don't want to sit here in that vegetated state. I said, do me the favor, please. If I can't walk or I can't get there, put my ass in my little jitney, because I had like a little Myers Max, like from a little bingo doom buggy, and I loved her. And I said, just shut the door. Let me listen to my music and sing in that little buggy, and let me be with it running. And it's the same type of thing, right? But in the retrospect and listening to my masters and my grandmasters, it's still taking a life when that life still has lessons to learn until it is done. And so in some religions, it is completely against culture, because it's basically you're committing suicide. The same that I wanted, I wanted just to be, I don't want to suffer. I just wanted to carbon monoxide, go, oh, there's DJ Clado again. So he was talking about the commercial of the Epstein salt. He goes, what's the difference removing life support from someone or having somebody like Dr. Gevorkian do it? The end result is the same. Well, I think it's spiritual, in my opinion. Jackie, what do you think?
Definitely spiritual. It's what you believe. I don't see it. If a person has a terminal illness, I don't see it as a suicide, though. I mean, that's personal. That's how I would see it. It depends on that person. Right. There's DJ Clado. He says, yeah, I agree totally.
It is truly, death is, it is private, it's personal, and it's your last will. It is truly your last will of what it is that you want. I believe, though, that miracles can happen on every level, on every aspect, if life lessons are not done, or Father, Mother, God needs you to do something else. I truly believe that was my near death. I had a soul purpose that I had to achieve, not just a life purpose. And though I thought I had achieved such greatness at that age, there was more. There was more that I had to be here for. So there's sometimes I watch with animals, you know, let's just talk about dog euthanizations. We euthanize dogs left, right, center, and all in between, or cats or animal, whatever animal it is. Are we allowing them their free will or their change? Are we allowing them to have that as well? Are we taking something away from them because our heart is so egoic that we can't stand watching it? I don't know the answer to that. That is, again, I think it's personal. What do you think?
Definitely personal. I've had to put a dog down, and the guilt that I felt. But at the same time, I did know that he was not going to be able to get up and walk around and get any better. I mean, not that I knew, but like you said, any miracle is possible. But at that point, he had already been a few days where he wasn't getting up and he wasn't eating, and he wasn't doing well. So I did the most humane thing I could think of, and that was to let him rest.
I was talking with one of my PTSD vets, and they knew that the suffrage of their battle buddy was so bad that they knew they weren't going to get medics in. And he confessed that he helped his battle buddy cross because he couldn't stand to watch the suffrage. I mean, I understand what he said, and how the body was actually still surviving and living is a total miracle in itself, or being able to speak. Basically, he had a mortar that went through the sternum of the gut. It didn't hit the heart or the lung, but it was only a matter of time, right? Because you're just going to bleed out. There's no way of fixing that severeness. And he said he couldn't. He thought it was going to happen. He goes, and I don't know time. Time is what? And a lot of his was that he helped that cross, but then he felt like he took his life. Maybe they could have helped. Maybe they could have done this. Maybe. And he goes, but I had to move. The truth that I had to move. And like, I felt as an empath, because I wasn't healed, I felt his pain. I felt that pain of him. I felt that being a very crippling thing for a soldier. And what he did was merciful. And I get that too. Now, how do we alleviate his pain, guilt, grief? Doing something so beautiful and merciful. There's Neva. In the ICU, I can't see with the glasses on. In the ICU, we can facilitate that under the terms of comfort care. First step of which is a do not resuscitate declaration. That is a transition to comfort care as opposed to aggressive care. In this case, we use terminal withdrawal of life support before removing an endotracheal tube that we give large bolus to the IV. Yeah. See, and there you go. There's the other controversy. And maybe you've come across this too, Jackie. Morphine. People believe in hospice that they're giving morphine to help them die. That's not true. The morphine, in what I know of morphine, because it is harder on the family. If you've watched somebody die, their breathing starts not very regular, and they might not breathe for 15, 20 seconds. And that's a long time watching somebody, believe it or not. And then all of a sudden they grasp, right? There's a terminology, and I don't know it. Maybe you or Neva know the terminology for it, but there is a grasping of that air.
You're talking about the death rattle?
Well, there's at the end where they stop breathing, and then all of a sudden they take these big breaths. And I know there's a name for it, and it may be in a life and death doula, that word, but I'm not quite sure. But what it does is it helps regulate so that the people don't see it, and they're not struggling for that air pressure, and they're at a more relaxed state. And in that setting, I don't I don't believe that people are truly being, and their thought theory was that morphine's lowering the blood pressure so that they die quicker. And I don't believe that to be the truth. Here's Neva again, who says morphine offloads both sides of the heart. Therefore, not only does it give euphoria and release of pain, but it also alleviates air hunger. That's it. Air hunger. Yay. That's the word. Air hunger. Yeah. And then she has the correct terminology, is agonal breathing. So it's air hunger, that, you're the grasping of the air, which that is the point where family members who are watching is very hard watching that. So the morphine, that's right. They give it when my dad died with the morphine, just so that he's at peace. He's not, the body's not struggling. And so would Narcan be like, or would Narcan be like a morphine then? Releasing that stressor point. It's not going to bring him back to life like the Narcan, but it's the immediate release to that body. Would that be a correlation I could compare? Did any of you know? Could I do that?
Don't know.
I don't know, but it is a struggle. And so I'm almost wondering, maybe in the future, like the allergy pens or the Narcan pens,
The EpiPens, yeah.
like, right, if our members on the battlefield could have like those types of pens, especially those in the front line that are watching a battle buddy, it's very hard to give them, something in that nature where it's just a peacefulness, not such, even though there's so much commotion going on around, it is a peacefulness, that they have. Narcan would block the effect of morphine. Oh, no, well, I didn't mean it to use both. I meant it like Narcan will help save somebody's life, but morphine will help just make it a peaceful life. And the Narcan will come out of that resistance of the heart being shattered. That's what I mean, is that kind of correlation. Not so much as, is it the same thing? I know it's not the same thing. But that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking just as far as somebody on the front line, instead of that soldier now having that grief and that guilt that he couldn't stand the suffering and knew in his mind it was inevitable for his battle buddy to go. Yeah. Where is the, what's the word? The compassion? Where is the, the humanity that somebody can help, especially the vets or first responders, right? Yeah. And even if it's morphine, just an empathy of just being at peace, being with no pain, but I'm telling you, once you release those endorphins of your crossing, there is no pain. I can tell you, I didn't have, and I can tell you that as a near death, I didn't have pain. There was no pain. Even though I was watching it, there was no pain. And I can tell you that it was gone. How it appeared in the physical to everybody else, there was panic and chaos, right? Because they were losing a life. And I don't know if it's panic and chaos that what we need in this, I believe that it's a choice. And when people come to me and ask me to do healings for people who are urgent, especially COVID, I would get a lot of calls. My family member, please, MJ, do something. My family member's dying. I said, listen, nobody's God. Nobody. There is not a God here. We need to be okay. So I would always tell them, validate them, love them, affirm, tell them how much they mean to you, and tell them how much you have learned from them and how your life is going to be so beautiful because of them. That's how I do it. And I allow them, go in peace, enjoy your life, go, because there is just the epitome of life never ending, and how I do my own life. But anyway, I'm down to the last minutes here. Jackie, is there anything else that you can add for us? How somebody gets in touch with you? Do you want to kind of give all this information for them?
Well, I have a website, jacksingspirit.com. The one thing I do want to say is that for everybody should just have a very basic idea in their mind and be like, what would I consider a good death? And whatever it is that you consider, work on that, because that's going to be what your most perfect way of passing and things getting done. And that way, nobody has to be rushing around looking for information or trying to guess what it is that you would have wanted. And love everybody. Just love and enjoy everything, because life is precious. And we don't know when our last day is going to be. It can be minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, years. You just never know. And it's something that we're all going to have to go through.
Amen. Not getting out alive, baby girl, baby boys, we're not. So let's own it. Let's affirm. Let's love. Let's balance, so we don't have to reincarnate and live all these life lessons that we didn't all over again. And let somebody know how much you love them. Let them know how much you mean to them, especially those who are aging, those who are having a terminal illness, those who we already know that time is coming. But live your life into balance, harmony, and grace. And then if somebody does die in something tragic, as an accident of a plane or a car, or something sudden, you've already told them, I loved you. So look at your circles. Look at your circles. Look at it big. Look at it deep, and honor and just love the people for who they are and what they are and what they bring to your life and your table. Maybe it's just for an educational purpose. Maybe it's something else. I'm over my 2-hour mark. So Joel's going to say, MJ, I know, I got to go. Jackie, I love you. Thank you. Please come back on. Give us the graces of your beauty and your knowledge to help us all just live a life that is just of so much peace.
Thank you for giving me this platform to talk about Death Doulas today. Thank you for everything.
You're very, very welcome. I'm going to give a little prayer, and then we're going to go to an exit. May the angels carry you with peace, love, grace, joy, happiness, and abundance of what it is that you desire most. Keep it into your heart. Honor, affirm, and respect, and just love your neighbor, love your family, and then you don't have the grief on the outside. Many blessings. See you next week here on a Monday. See you, Jax.
Thank you.
Let me go out.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.